Green Supply Chain Insights, hosted by Finboot's CEO, Juan Miguel Perez.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Juan, and this is Green Supply Chain Insights. Just in case you are a newcomer, Green Supply Chain Insights is a series of monthly episodes on YouTube and articles on LinkedIn where I bring my own perspective on green supply chain management, the current state of the industry, and some exciting innovations in this landscape. For those of you who are already regulars, you might have realized that in the last episode, we rolled out our new brand identity for the insights. We are still working to promoting, to position, and to strengthen this new brand, which we are confident we'll manage to do with your support. And B, we are still figuring out this background situation here. For us to be able to release our episodes monthly, the production setup needs to be very nimble. So hopefully this cozier, and as my colleague said, more aesthetic background from my home office will finally be a good fit. Now, let's get down to business. Today, I'm going to cover two main themes. We're going to start at the macro level, discussing some of the highlights of the recently released EU Competitiveness Compass. And then we are going to zoom in into one specific industry opportunity, which in my view encapsulates very well the three main themes that the Compass is covering. That is the growing biogas and biomethane sector. So let's start with the Compass. In early February, the European Commission rolled out the much anticipated EU Competitiveness Compass. It is the Commission's work plan to tackle the biggest challenges faced by the European Union. Competitiveness and economic growth are at the center of the plan, which is understandable considering the tense global geopolitical scene with trade wars igniting both East and West. The Compass pushes for the EU to focus on three key pillars: innovation, decarbonization, and security. Innovation means focusing on investments to promote industrial leadership in high-growth deep tech sectors, but also simplifying the regulatory, corporate, labor, and tax frameworks in principle to help startups and scale-ups thrive in the European single market. Decarbonization looks at the volatility of the energy sector and at the disruptions in the supply chain, which are, by the way, both very much economic indicators, right? And these are the anchors of the clean industry deal. When the Compass talks about decarbonization, it is not just from a model standpoint, it is very much from the economic standpoint, aiming to bring down energy prices through widespread, cheap, renewable energy. The clean industry deal already has specific plans for the steel, metals, and chemical sectors, which are the backbone of European manufacturing, with other segments like oil and gas also pushing the Commission for plans to address their challenges too. The third pillar of the Compass is security, which is accepting the reality of geopolitics and global trade. And what the EU wants is to remove dependencies and advance in energy and manufacturing independence, while at the same time securing those much needed sustainable and ethically sourced supply chain critical raw materials from trade partners. If it can be made here, let's make it here. And where we need some critical raw materials not found in the Union, let's make sure strong and favorable trade agreements are in place. So, innovation, decarbonization, and security. That's the roadmap the European Commission is setting for the next 5 years. And I think what's most important here is to understand that these three pillars are not meant to be conflicting. They're not meant to be disconnected. No, we are going to invest in innovations that can help us accelerate industrial decarbonization to make our industries more competitive and to further advance on that technological sovereignty, which at the same time has an impact on the sustainability of our supply chains, right? So it's all a circle. It's perhaps the most holistic way to look at the circular economy, very much a big picture viewpoint. And why are these the priorities, right, for the EU? Well, most of the compass is founded on the ideas from the report by Mario Draghi released last year, where he pointed out to some of the deficiencies and gaps on how Europe has failed to keep up with major economies in terms of primarily productivity and growth. But most importantly, it doesn't deviate from investments and advancements already deployed in climate action and sustainability. It's true, there are some winds of deregulation or simplification of bureaucracy blowing around in Brussels. There's currently an omnibus bill in the European Parliament being discussed, which looks at revisiting or reopening some groundbreaking policies like CS3D or CSRD. The outcome of those discussions won't be seen until a couple of months from now, but with pressure coming from large industrial players, we are bound to see at least some level of change. The hope is that those changes are done in a direction that by removing said bureaucracy, we unlock additional capital investment in industrial decarbonization, which is, by the way, what industry leaders say they'll do. So it's on us as consumers and on the government as policymakers to keep watch and make them accountable for their words. And the reason I think is so important that industrial decarbonization stays very much at the top of the agenda is not just because I see it as a moral obligation, it is also because innovations in sustainability, decarbonization, and renewable resources are a gigantic opportunity for economic growth. And it is one in which the EU has previously had the upper hand. One example of this is early developments in renewable electricity, where unfortunately we later slowed down and kind of lost that race in comparison to China, for instance. So what we need is to regain that upper hand in sustainable innovations. We have the know-how, we have the expertise. It's now time to show the commitment. That brings me to that more specific theme for today, which is, I believe, an excellent example where the moral environmental reasons are a perfect match to the monetization and economic viability, with the added value of also strengthening our technological and resource sovereignty. That example is the growing biogas and biomethane sector, so renewable natural gas. The expansion and rapid growth of that biomethane production capacity touches every pillar of the EU Competitiveness Compass. Innovation, the origin of these cutting-edge technological developments, are very much centered around innovation that allows us to turn waste into energy. Decarbonization, again, a super effective way to decarbonize the energy industry and also to reduce pollution created by the agri-food sector by improving waste management in that space. And security, as it removes dependencies from foreign players for expensive energy resources. We don't need to think very far. If we only go back a couple of years to the energy crisis that ensued after the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. We did manage to remove Europe's dependency on Russian gas, but at a very high cost, and in some ways, just replacing it for more expensive imports to the other side of the Atlantic. So the biomethane sector is a huge opportunity, one that can be unlocked through short-term infrastructure investments to build that capacity, which has a direct impact on GDP growth. And those short investments will then turn into domestic renewable energy production, which will help decarbonize energy-intensive industries like steel, metals, and chemicals, those that are at the core of the clean industry deal. And lastly, that domestic energy production further removes dependencies on imports. Back to my message, if it can be made here, let's make it here. Now, I don't want you to take this as an anti-trade message, which is not at all what I'm trying to say. I know that's very, very much recently a la mode to say it one way, but global trade will continue to be important for economic viability, and it just needs to be done in a more strategic way to maintain our leadership in decarbonization and to regain control of growth and productivity. I'm super excited to see the advances in the biomethane space. I've spoken with multiple industry leaders that are either already producing or are ready to start production in 2025. I actually had a chance to speak with one of those thought leaders in an interview that is coming out later this month, so stay tuned for that. So I'm confident that by 2026, we will already start to see that change in the energy mix of European gas pipelines. With that, it is time now to wrap it up. We will be back next month with another episode of Green Supply Chain Insights. Remember, episodes come out every month, followed by a LinkedIn article version of each episode. You can find all articles on my LinkedIn profile, or all episodes on Finboot's YouTube channel, or going to finboot.com/insights. Thank you for watching, and see you next month.